Lately, I've been thinking a lot about becoming, not the loud kind, not the kind that comes with announcements or milestones or applause, but the kind that happens quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. And I think that's why I keep returning to fairy tales, because fairy tales don't rush us. They don't tell us that we're behind. They don't insist that purpose has to look impressive while it's happening. Today, I want to talk about two Grimm fairy tales, The Golden Bird and The Goose Girl, and what they've been teaching me about calling, patience, and becoming, especially when it feels like nothing is happening at all. When I read The Golden Bird, what always stands out to me is the youngest son. He's not the favorite. His own father doesn't really believe in him. And honestly, at first glance, he doesn't look like the one who's going to succeed. And I relate to that more than I'd like to admit. There have been seasons in my own life where I've felt overlooked, not because I wasn't capable, but because I wasn't loud or fast or obvious about what I was doing. I was listening. I was waiting. I was paying attention. And in the story, that's exactly what sets the youngest son apart. All three brothers are given the same chance. All three meet the fox, but only the youngest son listens. I mean, really listens, even when the advice feels inconvenient or strange. And that feels so familiar to me. So much of my life has unfolded not because I rushed toward what glittered, but because I slowed down enough to notice what quietly asked for my attention. What I love about the story is that the youngest son isn't perfect. He messes up. He makes mistakes, many of them. He misunderstands things, and still he keeps going. That's such an important reminder for me. Becoming isn't about getting it right the first time. It's about being willing to correct course without abandoning yourself entirely. I've learned far more from the moments where I paused, listened, and adjusted than I ever did from charging ahead out of fear or urgency. And the golden bird seems to say the same thing. Purpose doesn't belong to the fastest person in the room. It belongs to the one who knows how to listen to themselves and to others. And then there's the Goose Girl, which honestly might be one of the most misunderstood fairy tales because from the outside, it looks like passivity, silence, loss. But that's not what's happening at all. The Goose Girl loses her title, her safety, her voice, and yet she never loses herself. And that's the part that always gets me. There have been times when I couldn't explain myself, times when speaking would have broken something tender that was still forming inside me. And the Goose Girl reminds me that silence is not the same as weakness. Neither is kindness, by the way. Sometimes silence is restraint. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's devotion to a truth that isn't ready to be spoken yet. What's powerful about the Goose Girl is that she doesn't fight her way back to her identity. She lives it quietly, steadily, faithfully. And eventually the truth rises, not because she forces it, but because truth has its own momentum, its own timing. And that's something I have had to learn very slowly. I don't have to explain everything I'm becoming while I'm becoming it, and neither do you. And I don't have to rush any kind of proof. Staying true to myself, even when misunderstood, is not wasted time. It's the work. When I place these two stories side by side, what I see is this. In The Golden Bird, becoming happens through listening and movement. In The Goose Girl, becoming happens through waiting and endurance. Both are callings, both are valid, and neither looks impressive from the outside. And that's actually such a relief because not all of us are meant to charge forward. Some of us are meant to tend something quietly until it's ready. If you're in a season where your life doesn't look the way you thought it would, if your calling feels slow, unseen, or misunderstood, these stories are for you. Fairy tales remind us that becoming is not a performance. It's a process. And often, the most important work of our lives happens long before anyone else notices. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to sit with it a little longer. I've written more about these stories over on Substack, and this video is part of a longer series exploring purpose through fairy tales. Thank you for being here. And thank you for honoring the quiet work you're doing, whether anyone else sees it or not.